Ohana means family, and family means that no one is left behind or forgotten. I never truly grasped the meaning of this until this past year when I was left carless, phoneless, and heartbroken. And my dad showed me his unconditional love. When I was growing up, it was normal for my father to act out in anger and lash out. He would get mad at repeating directions or us not saying good morning or good night to him, or just anything in general if we didn't wash the dishes or take out the trash. And I thought this was normal because I was young and I didn't know anything, and I was like, this is just what dads do. And the next day he would act like everything was fine, and he would act like nothing had happened the night before. But as I grew older, I realized that this was not normal, not healthy. I observed my family and my friends and how their parents treated them, and I realized that the way my father was acting towards me, my mother, my dog, and my brother was definitely not normal. So as a result, I started to speak up, and I started to argue back with my father because no one else would. This caused tension and arguments throughout my household, which put a strain on the whole family dynamic. He would do things like look through my phone. He would make me and my brother turn in our phones every day at 11 at night, give him our passwords to everything like Instagram, email, Snapchat, and he would look through our phones just to see if he could find something to yell at us at. This caused me to be able to get really good at hiding things, naturally because I didn't know what else to do, and this also caused me and my father's relationship to become strained, and I began to talk to him less and less. This leads me to my senior year of high school when I started talking to a boy I met on Instagram, which is, now that I know, not a way to meet someone. He's also now famous on Instagram and TikTok. So, because I was so good at hiding things for 5 months, my parents had no clue that I was talking to this boy who lived 40 minutes away. I was scared to tell my parents about him because I didn't know what they would do or how they would react because as I grew up, he was constantly on me. So, as a result, I had 2 phones. I learned to change the location on my phone to my old phone and make it seem like I was at my friend's house. So in reality, I was driving 40 minutes away to meet this boy. And this worked for about 6 months until March 30th, which is the day that I will never forget. I told my parents that I was at my friend Reagan's house, who, to my mistake, it was my mistake because she literally lived like 2 minutes away from me. So my dad texted me asking where I was, and I said I was at Reagan's house. And he said to be home in 10 minutes. This guy's house was 40 minutes away. So I, at 11 p.m., hopped in my car and sped like 100 miles an hour on the freeway. And I got home in 15 minutes, which I So when I got home, I acted like everything was normal, and I thought everything was normal. So I get home, and I'm like sweating, and I'm like, hi guys, my parents are sitting on the couch, and they ask me, where were you? I was like, I was at Reagan's house. And my parents were like, no, you weren't. And that was when I knew that I had been caught in my lies. I had to confess to being at Ricky's house, who they had no clue. Like, they didn't even know he existed. And this resulted in me getting my phone taken away. They knew about one phone, so that phone was taken away. And my car. And that same night, I found out from my second phone, which they didn't know about, that this boy had been cheating on me with his ex-girlfriend for 2 months. And that completely shattered me because first of all, I had no car, no phone, and I had been cheated on. So the next day, I was sad, angry, and confused. I cried all day because I didn't know what I did. Well, I knew what I did wrong. But I just cried because I was just an emotional wreck and I didn't know what to do. And I couldn't go out and see my friends because I was grounded for 3 months. I was mad at my father because I thought that it was his problem that I was unable to talk to him and unable to tell him what was going on in my life, and that was what I blamed. I blamed everything on him. The next day, Ricky had his mother drive to our house in the middle of the night, and he came and tried talking to me and explaining the situation, and this was the first time my father had met him, because my father came home the same time I was talking to Ricky outside. And I told my dad to trust me and that I was handling everything. And after I finished talking with Ricky, I went inside and I started crying, like uncontrollably, like it was embarrassing. And my dad was actually the one that comforted me and gave me advice and told me that everything was going to be okay. So that next day I was still a mess. And I had a track meet the next day, and this was the biggest track meet of the season, and it was the last one of my senior season that was like an invite, which is like, it's like a big thing. And it was 2 hours away. I actually didn't compete that day because I was such a mess. I was literally curled up in a ball, like crying, phoneless at this point. And I look to the right, and I see my dad standing in the stands, and he's supporting me. And this helped me realize that my father, no matter what, was going to be there for me no matter what, supporting me and cheering me on from the sidelines. I've realized to this day, I've learned that my relationship with my dad is not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be, probably never going to be healthy, and I'm probably not going to continue to not tell him certain things of my life. But I've also realized that the relationship with my father is something that is permanent and that can never be broken. Friendships and relationships are things that can be broken and they're temporary, but I've learned that the bond between family is unconditional and never forgotten.
Okay, stop.